Again, one of the most complicated parts about learning to use the graph editor is the complexity of all of these curves and how they each affect a different part of this object's motion. So currently, this motion is kind of complicated. My object moves forward, and then around this point starts continuing moving forward, but also moving upward. And if we were to look at our two graphs, we would see that happening. In Translate X, my object is moving forward and then continues to move forward. However, at about this point, it starts moving backwards as well. Now, it still continues to move upward, whereas at this point, the object has not moved upward, but starts moving upward over time. Now, on frame 30, the object has reached the peak of its vertical climb and starts moving downward until it gets back to the ground again. During this transition, the object also reaches its furthest backwards point and starts moving forward again. And this ends up giving us a pretty smooth loop around this donut. However, if I were to go to Visualize and create Editable Motion Trail, you'll see areas where this loop could be increased. So, for example, maybe if I adjusted this tangent to be a little sharper here, and I adjusted this tangent to be a little sharper here and here, we're going to start getting a little bit more of a loop. So now, this arc is a little cleaner. Now, one of the biggest benefits of the graph editor is the fact that we can make big changes quickly. So let's say that the director came to us and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, this donut isn't here. It's actually here, and I still need that animation to make sense." Well, it's actually pretty easy to fix this, because all that has really changed is the location of this donut in the side-to-side direction. So I can grab this entire curve and I can slide my animation until it now lines up with the new location of the donut. Let's say the director also points out to us that this box is supposed to be doing a loop around the donut, and currently it's staying in the same orientation. Rather than going back and reanimating this entire thing, I'm just going to change the curve for my Rotate Z. In my Rotate Z, you'll see that for the most part, it's completely flat all the way through. If I need to add a new keyframe, I can do that by right-clicking on Rotate Z and saying Key Selected. I can also add a new keyframe in the graph editor by either right-clicking on the curve and saying Insert Key, or going to Keys and saying Add Key Tool. And then I have to select the curve and middle-click. All of these pretty much do the same thing of creating a new keyframe. But the reason I did that on my Translate Z is because this is the last point in which I want my platform to be laying flat like this. Over the rest of this stretch of time, I'll go back to W to the Move tool, I want my platform to do a complete rotation, a complete 360-degree rotation. So I could do that just by selecting these two keyframes and typing in 360. Now you'll notice that my curve does a full 360-degree rotation. However, this keyframe is kind of messing it up, so I'll go ahead and delete that. And now we get something like that. I personally think that we could probably make this better by changing the timing just a little bit, and then setting these keyframes to linear. And now what we get is a pretty smooth transition.